moving over to the defensive side of the ball, and just like the offense, there's also a new leader there with defensive coordinator Brian Stewart, who is most recently the defensive coordinator of the XFL's Houston Roughnecks. What can you tell us about the type of scheme that Coach Stewart plans to run at Middle Tennessee?
Yeah, highly successful Brian Stewart. He had a stint with the Cowboys. One of the more successful years of the Dallas Cowboys, that is too. So I'm really excited about the news of having Stewart added to the coaching staff. He's a guy that's going to bring a ton of experience to a really inexperienced defensive side of the ball that we have this year. One thing that we have picked up on is the fact that it's always best man up. He's not going to play favorites. We've got a lot of P5 transfer in the secondary, and he mixed a lot of them in the spring game. So I know that as we preview the season here, you kind of want me to tell you who is who and where they're going to be playing. But one thing that I can't for sure tell you is what things look like now at the end of April. This comes out early May, and where things will be when we kick off in August and September. I think that's something that Brian Stewart's willfully playing around with, and I know that that's something that they're going to target pretty heavily in the transfer portal, is finding depth pieces for their up front seven. But for him, he's looking for physical guys. Size doesn't matter for the most part. It's about the guy that's willing to put his head in and get to work. And we see that evidenced by, again, giving so many guys the opportunity this spring.
What would you say like the base scheme is? Is a 4-3, a 3-3-5, 3-4?
He's got three down linemen. Yeah, for the most part, I would say a 3-3-5 because we do utilize the nickel quite a bit. So I'm not huge on the defensive side of the ball, but if I had to put something to it, I'd say a 3-3-5. But it's kind of a multiple scheme. I know we've seen some sets with 4 down linemen, 3 down linemen. So again, it may be back to what we were just talking about. It may be a mixture of personnel.
Might be dictated by the personnel.
Right.
All right, so let's talk about those guys up front. If there's 3 down linemen, they do lose Quindarius Dunnigan and Jordan Branch and Marley Cook and Zayden Wood. They do return James Stewart, DeMonte Smith, Brandon Buckner, and others. They also bring in Felix Hickson from South Carolina, one of those P5 guys that you're talking about. How did that unit look this spring, and did anybody stand out?
Yeah, the front there is got a lot of rebuilding to do. That was kind of our area that we were our strongest last season, and we were kind of hoping. Well, when Stockstill left, you know guys are going to enter the portal, but those guys left almost immediately, and it kind of hurt because you know that whoever we didn't know Mason wasn't on any of our radars, but I would like to think that had they known that a guy like Derek Mason, who's very defensive heavy, would have probably stayed at benefit, but. A lot of those guys moved on to SEC schools, so I can't blame them for getting those opportunities. But that was an area. The front line was an area that we are really hurting for right now. As far as that front seven goes, and you mentioned some of those guys. It's just they're rolling through so many. The only guy that really stood out in regards to like the production that's going to return is going to be Parker Hughes, Devin Curtis. Those are guys that have tons of, and Drew Francis as another guy. Those guys have a lot of minutes played, and they actually stuck around to kind of see what played out of the head coaching position. So we're very thankful for that. But the front seven is such a mix, and I know that there's just no. I couldn't even begin to tell you where they stand on the depth chart right now.
That might be pretty good because you've got to have that offensive line depth and defensive line depth, and if you're constantly rotating to figure out what you got, well, you might luck into just having really good depth.
Right. And you touch on it. Another byproduct is just the amount of reps you're getting, right? If everyone's getting 1 reps, we're all getting quality reps, right? And the size of the offensive line, I think that Mason has touched on in press conferences past, is you're going up against these big fellas, right? Like that's got to count for something at the end of the day. You can go against your scout team, but when you're going up against guys that are 375 pounds in practice every day, like you're going to get better. And so is he, for that matter.
You kind of touched on the linebacker group there. You do lose leading tackler Sam Brumfield, who's off to Virginia Tech, and then Jonathan Butler graduates. But some of the guys that you mentioned, as far as returning production, Parker Hughes, Devin Curtis, Drew Francis. Did anyone kind of step up to kind of fill that leadership role that Brumfield?
He's a tough guy to kind of replace for all the reasons you listed. He was a leader. He got a lot of he was a tackles leader. Gosh, he just created turnovers. He's all over the field at once, and he was one that, again, really stung to see leave. To step up in that role, it's going to be guys like Hughes, like Curtis, who've been here for a while. that'll do that for you. They kind of know the way, they know the ropes of what it means to be MTSU Blue Raiders, or as Mason loves to call it, blue collar. They're from small schools. Well, Curtis is not. Curtis is from Brentwood Academy, a very large private school, but Hughes is from a very small school in East Tennessee. So he kind of understands what it takes to, one, get yourself out of your situation, get you into Division I level, and be a high performing linebacker at that. So those are kind of, if you're looking for the leadership type, those are your obvious choices, and they're going to be producers for you at the linebacker position. You got guys like James Stewart, who ended up getting 3 sacks over in the spring game. Granted, they're touch sacks, so take that for what it is. Yeah. But you're getting quarterback pressure, and he's an undersized defensive end too. That you look for. If you put him in Conference USA, he's going to excel, much like we saw with Sam Brumfield. But Sam was able to get his, no matter who he played, Alabama, Miami, he got his. So he's a guy that, again, he's a tough one to replace, but you're going to lean pretty heavily on those experienced players when they come back this year.
So another area that kind of lost a lot was that defensive backfield, losing Jacoby Thomas to Tennessee and Truff Flellen and Teldrick Ross to graduation. They did bring in Brendan Harris from Wake Forest and James Mons III from Indiana. They returned Terrell Raby and Dier McDonald and Marve Myers, I believe. Is that how you say it? Marve?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Who stepped up in the spring, and how do we see these vacated roles get filled?
Yeah, they're a tough group, not only to scout but also to pronounce. But they're Ricky Smith is another one that's a transfer in from Purdue, who's a safety. He's a guy that really showed out at the spring game. He's going to be the free safety for him. I would have to imagine he's kind of the number. He's going to be that guy. He's flying around, making a lot of the stops. The other one is Brendan Harris, another safety. He's going to probably more than likely play the other safety position for him. It's all about finding where the cornerbacks, where they're going to fall, because you're losing all your production there. Safety is kind of always an area we've always been really good at. So it's surprising to see new. Yeah, if you know anything, you got Kevin Byard, Trey
Blankenship.
Reed Blankenship. You got Trey Flellen, who just coming off an ACL. Didn't get drafted. He was on some people with potential. As of now, we still don't have any news on him being undrafted, but he's coming off an ACL surgery. So it'll be a tough sell, but he's a guy that was on some NFL draft boards for a while before the injury. But back to the cornerback discussion, you've got James Mond. I liked him a lot. He played the nickel in the spring game. He's a guy that has got a pass breakup. He rushed off the edge. He's a guy that's very quick. I like his game a lot. I look forward to seeing him. You got Tyrell Raby, who's got a lot of experience. Diari McDonald, he's a guy from Cincinnati as well. He's kind of played more of the outside linebacker position, also could play the nickel. Not necessarily the fast type that was going to be able to stick around with your slot receivers, but he gives you that size and that speed that you do need in the outside linebacker position to also defend the run really well. So as far as, again, where their heads are at, we've already seen some cornerbacks actually hit the portal. More of your depth pieces hit the portal. I think they're pretty set on who their 5 secondary players are going to be, but I still think he's willing to play around with them a little bit. But you've got a lot of guys that have Power 5 experience that look really good in our spring game, and hopefully they'll be big contributors in the secondary, because that's something that has always been MTSU's strength is our secondary.
If you had to pick a defensive player to kind of have a breakout season in 2024, who do you think that might be?
Man, I wish I really could give you a solid answer on something I feel confident about. I do think Ricky Smith, the transfer in from Purdue, would be my number one choice. He has the Power 5 experience. He played a lot at Purdue. I think he's going to have the opportunity to create a lot of turnovers. And again, I think I give him benefit of the doubt just playing the safety position. It's weird because the coaching staff is entirely different. So it's hard to say that MTSU is really good at the safety position, but in the same breath admit that you have an entirely different coaching staff. So right. you don't know exactly where he's going to fall, but I like Ricky Smith. He has all the intangibles to be a really good safety in Conference USA, and it's a pretty pass heavy league. So he's going to be in the action, but unfortunately for him and a lot of the secondary guys, it's kind of a sink or swim kind of conference. Like I said, teams are going to throw 400 yards a night. It's just a virtue of the Conference USA offensive style. So they're going to get put on islands, but I would anticipate a lot of them are going to get rotated through. But Ricky Smith, I think, is going to be a mainstay at free safety.